Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros.
Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show Action Edition, where we feature an actionable tip that you can use today. And I'm here with my old buddy Larry. Larry, let me share a quick story.
Let's share a quick
here.
story.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea.
Let's share a quick story, and let me start it off, and you can finish it. Folks, Larry and I were both at a site, at a customer site, and we were installing all the appliances in the kitchen. And long story short, we got to the dishwasher. And I had to rewire the plug in the back and things like that. And we finally put the dishwasher into its little space and secured it in that little space. Made sure that it turned on, which it did. But as you all know, that dishwashers need an inlet and an outlet of water. And so we ran the hoses over underneath the sink,
and where they were to find?
Where they were to be connected by a plumber that they had hired to come in after us and hook up the input of the water and the out of the water. And Larry, I'll let you take it from there.
So when we saw that, folks, because this is so at this point, John and I, we hang the hoses over the edge, and it was kind of a sharp drop in there. So John and I, we took blue tape, another fine use of blue tape, by the way, folks. There's your tip for the day. But we wrapped blue tape around both the inlet and the outlet side of the plumbing that came out of the dishwasher, and we hung it over by where the plumbing in this house was not done yet. And in talking to the customer, the plumber was coming in the next couple of days, literally 2 days later. Because I was like, well, do you want me to hook up the sink? And she's like, no, the plumber's coming, he'll do it, no problem. And the water supply side, I knew he was going to change it. There were some changes on it that he was going to do. I'm like, yeah, I'm just not going to touch it because it's just not. We could have done it. There's no problem. We could have done it. But she already had him in for many, many other things to do in that house. This was a remodel job where he was doing bathrooms and he was doing the kitchen. He was doing a bunch of stuff. So with that said, we're like, all right, we're gonna tape these two things together and we're gonna hang it. And I think, John, didn't we put tape right around the supply side line that he was going to put in? We actually taped it to the supply side line, right?
Yeah, we had both. Yeah, we had both the in and the out hoses taped together and hung over.
And didn't we taped them to the supply side?
Right.
We actually taped it to the supply side because we're thinking to ourselves, if I'm doing this and I walk in here, I'd be like, oh, the guys that did this did a nice job. They taped it up here and they left it right here, easy for me to get at, right?
That was the idea.
That was the idea. So here's the rest of the story, as they say, right? Here's the rest of the story. So I'm out on a job one day and I get a text from the customer. Dishwasher doesn't work. Can you call me? So I call her, and she says, yeah, I ran the dishwasher this morning. It didn't work. It's almost like there's no water coming in. And I was like, well, that's odd. We told her the story. We pulled the things over. So I said, well, open up under your sink. And she puts me on FaceTime, and I look, and I go, oh, well, there's your problem. Your water valve to the inlet side of the dishwasher was hooked up to the water valve, but the water valve was off. And I thought, oh, easy enough mistake. I see that, the guy just didn't want to power it up, whatever, didn't put the water on. So I said, well, turn the valve, quarter turn valve, right? So I said, just turn the valve, and I'm doing it on FaceTime. I can see the valve. I go, yeah, that's right. Okay, good. Now try it. She tries it. She hears water going in. She goes, oh, great. About 15 minutes later, I get a 911 text. Oh my God. And she's on the phone. She's calling me. She's texting me. There's an email there. It's like, I've got a flood. I'm like, what do you mean you have a flood? And I'm like, all right, turn the dishwasher off, right? And she's panicked. She's really got water all over the floor, right? Now this is a brand new remodel. It's virtually a brand new house, right, John? It was essentially wasn't quite a studs out remodel, but pretty close.
It's a nice dishwasher too. It's a Bosch.
Yeah, really, and super nice stuff, And so anyway, I go, where's the water coming from? She's coming from under the sink. So she puts me on FaceTime. We flip it around. I look. I'm like, where's the drain? And she goes, I don't know. And I'm like, and I look and I'm like, there's the drain way in the back. And she goes, oh my God, that's where the water's coming from. And I'm like, why is that not hooked up to the drain on the sink like it's supposed to be? Folks, your dishwasher is hooked into your drain on your sink, or it has its own separate drain, either or, depending on how the plumbing's run in your house. This drain was just out sitting on the floor of the cabinet of the sink, like literally just laying there. And of course, she ran the dishwasher. It poured the drain, the pump, pumped the water out onto the bottom of the cabinet, subsequently out onto her brand new floor. Thank God it was LVP, floor over concrete, right? Or we would have had a really big mess, right? But as it was, we had enough of a mess, but it wasn't a critical, dangerous mess, right? So it wasn't leaking into drywall or anything like that. And I said to her, I go, did your plumber come in and hook this stuff up? And she's like, well, I paid him to. And I'm like, well, that is the drain line. I said, is there a little nub off the drain side? And she goes, I don't see one. And again, I'm looking at it because she's got her camera down there and she's FaceTiming. By the way, folks, another quick tip. FaceTime is a wonderful way with your contractors to diagnose things. If you've got problems, don't forget you can flip the camera around and show them what's going on, so you can get real time. Anyway, be that as it may. So anyway, long story short, I go, well, okay. So I said, you have to shut it off or put your drain line into a bucket for right now. And just when it fills up, pour it in the sink. And I think that's what she ended up doing to finish the cycle. Anyway, long story short, she calls the plumber. The plumber comes back and he's irate. He goes, "What?" He's like, what do you mean I was supposed to hook that up? I didn't even see it. Well, I told her about the fact that we taped them together, John, which was kind of a funny thing, and after the fact. We had taped those two lines together. I go, there's no way he didn't
we did
see
that on
it.
purpose.
We did it on purpose. We did it for two reasons. We did it for one reason so that the line didn't fall back in behind. It was very difficult to get to the back of the dishwasher once we installed it, relatively different. You weren't going to reach your arm up and over in there. That was the point. So we taped it in there. But basically, I guess our tip for this one is, folks, when somebody does a job, would you please, before they leave, if they do a job, have them show you how it works. Literally how it works. Because if she had run the dishwasher before the plumber had left, she would have, found out that it didn't have water running into it, meaning the valve was off, and she would have found out that the drain wasn't hooked up. And John, you know as well as I do, this particular plumber would have said, oh, don't run that, there's no drain. Now, if he had said that to her, she would have been fine. If he said, I didn't have the part, I'm going to come back later, don't run your dishwasher because we've got the water hooked up on the inside, but we don't have a drain side. But instead, it turned into a not such a good situation. And it was all because it was a combination of errors. I'm going to call it that. It was, first off, on the first side, John and I both now realize we're not going to leave a job. If we're going to hand a job off to somebody, we want the customer before we leave to understand what we did. So again, that's a little inside baseball for us. But if you have like just in this case, we were there. We installed, what did we install, John? The fridge, the microwave, the stovetop, the dishwasher. Did we install anything else? It doesn't matter. But we installed the vent hood up over the top. Right. Before I left, we tested all those items right in front of the except the dishwasher because we didn't have plumbing hookups to it. So I showed her how the microwave worked. I showed her the fact that the refrigerator was working. We used the gas cooktop, and I showed her the vent. Everything was working. So the point is that a good contractor should show you that everything works in that house before they leave. And the reason that they should do that is that they're going to test their work, right? So John, you and I, we test our work, especially on something like plumbing.
Absolutely. And I don't know, how somebody could have missed this with the way they, with the way we left it. So I think, from a takeaway on this is that, not only should they be testing it, but I just you have to look for yourself underneath there and make sure that the job was completely done. There's no way that this could have been his first rodeo on putting together hooking up a dishwasher if he's a professional plumber. There's just no way.
That's a no.
So So I don't know how he missed that. But
I do, but that's a whole other thing. He didn't have the part. He did not have out of the drain. He didn't have the part with a dishwasher nozzle nipple on it. So he didn't hook it up, and he probably meant to tell her. I'm going to take up for the plumber. He probably meant to tell her, "Don't use your dishwasher. I've got to come back," but it got lost in the shuffle, right?
Yeah, right. But at least,
in the shuffle.
But she got her dishes cleaned, though.
Yeah. I will say, folks, it gave me a lot of stress because it was like, what? Like, what do you mean you have a flood? Because, in our folks, this is a little aside, but in our world, plumbing leaks are really bad. Like, we do not like them, like, at all.
So I'll tell you that, from a standpoint of what I do, Larry, is that anytime I've got an incomplete job, that do not use job, okay, one of those,
right.
I always carry surveyor's tape with me, that bright orange tape.
Yep. And you mark it off.
And I tag it. I tag it just like I would when I was working on airplanes. When I'm pulling circuit breakers in the cockpit, I'm red tagging it. Don't push that breaker in because I'm in the back by the flaps. You're going to take my head off. So, I've just come accustomed to that, especially with light switches. I'm going to tell you that, if I'm going to do a fan, I'm going to put a new fan in, that I'm going to tag that. I'm going to tag that fan switch and the light switch on the side so nobody comes in and just flips it on me.
And the breaker.
I'm just that guy. Just that guy. Yep. Okay. But in a case like this, I would have red tagged it and said, "Do not use that." And I do it right away because, if this actually got lost in the shuffle, then, shame on him for, losing that in the shuffle for such an important thing.
Right. All right, folks, don't forget to join our Facebook group. That's at Handyman Pros. Join in the conversation. You can send us an email, questions at Handyman Pros Radio Show, or you can go to our homepage at handymanprosradioshow.com and give us a voice message. We were also on Twitter. That's at Handyman Radio, and we look forward to talking to you next week. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this podcast and have derived some value from it, here's 4 things you can do. 1, tell your friends about this podcast. 2, hit subscribe on your podcast player. While you're there, leave us a review. 3, subscribe to our newsletter by going to handymanprosradioshow.com and click on the subscribe button. We'll inform you of upcoming events, shows, and give you actionable tips for maintaining your home and property. And 4, send us an email with your questions to questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. That's handymanprosradioshow.com. That's our show for this week. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.